This is Yellen. Uncuff
my wife and my daughter, let them go right now. Do you understand me?
Tommy Norris, past in Landman Season 2, is far more heartbreaking than anyone expected, and the new episodes finally peel back layers that explain why Tommy behaves the way he does, why he parented the way he did, and why he carries himself with such hardened strength. Every interaction with his father, T.L. Norris, quietly reveals clues we weren't noticing before, and the breadcrumbs from Season 1 suddenly make more sense when you view them through the lens of Tommy's painful childhood. Tommy's mother's death is the first major trigger that pushes him back into the memories he's been avoiding for years. Even before we know the details, the way Tommy reacts, calm on the outside, broken on the inside, already tells us he has unfinished wounds connected to both of his parents. Picking out his mother's coffin with Cooper seems simple.
We've avoided telling each other the truth for a long time. Let's not start now.
But it's loaded with silent tension. Tommy looks at those coffins the way someone looks at something familiar and painful. This moment works as a breadcrumb, hinting that Tommy's relationship with his mother was complicated, filled with love, disappointment, and trauma. The next stop at TL's nursing home unlocks everything. The old man sitting alone at sunset, slumped in a wheelchair, gives us the first visual message. This is a man who once tried to stand tall but ultimately broke under the weight of his own failures. The silence between Tommy and TL says more than their eventual conversation. You can feel the history of anger, fear, and shame woven into every glance. Cooper watching them is the audience's stand-in. He is confused, curious, and slowly realizing how little he truly knows about his father. The big reveal hits quietly but sharply. Tommy's mother was a heavy cocaine addict. This immediately reframes his childhood. Instead of a stable home, Tommy grew up in chaos, unpredictable mornings, unstable nights, and a mother who couldn't be emotionally present. This explains why Tommy today is hyper-disciplined, controlled, and unemotional. Children who grow up in unstable homes often become adults who rely on control as protection. But the darker truth is that TL wasn't the anchor the family needed. He worked long days on oil rigs, and when he came home, he was full of alcohol, grief, and frustration. The show doesn't spell out every detail, but the implications are clear. TL was violent. He took out his pain on Tommy, and very likely on Tommy's mother, too. Even the way TL says certain lines, full of regret but also self-pity, gives us breadcrumbs about how long this abuse lasted and how deeply it shaped Tommy. One key line, TL says, "I worked myself until I was crippled," reveals the complicated mix of guilt and denial inside him. It's true he worked himself to exhaustion, but the deeper message is that he used work as an escape. Instead of facing his failing marriage or his struggling child, he hit on the rigs. That physical injury becomes a symbol. He ran from responsibility so hard that it eventually destroyed him. The wheelchair, the nursing home, the sunsets, each detail emphasizes that TL is a man who has had decades to sit with his mistakes. These are the consequences of a father who realizes too late what he destroyed. And yet, Tommy's reaction shows something important. He hasn't fully healed. Trauma doesn't just fade when you become an adult. It shapes the way you love, the way you trust, and the way you parent. Cooper learning this truth about his father is a turning point. Suddenly, he understands why Tommy is tough, why he doesn't say "I love you" easily, and why he pushes instead of praises. The scene in the car after visiting TL is one of the most emotional scenes of the season. Tommy, usually guarded, finally admits what he believes, that he wasn't cut out to be a father. When he tells Cooper that being a dad means showing up, being present, and not repeating the mistakes of the past, it becomes clear that Tommy has measured himself against TL his entire life. And in his mind, he hasn't measured up. But then something beautiful and heartbreaking happens. Cooper looks at his father, not at the legend, not at the tough oil man, but at the man who tried. He tells him he was good enough. This line hits hard because simple reassurance can heal wounds that decades of silence deepened. Cooper doesn't see a failure. He sees a man who worked, who tried, who showed up when he could, and who taught him values and strength, even if it wasn't perfect. This moment also reveals a hidden detail from earlier episodes. Cooper has always respected Tommy's grit, leadership, and honesty. Now, knowing the trauma behind it, those traits feel even more heroic. It reframes Tommy's entire character arc. He didn't become strong despite his past. He became strong because of it. The contrast between TL and Tommy becomes even more powerful when we look at Tommy's relationship with Ainsley. Ainsley adores her father. She talks about him with warmth and admiration. Her reactions are clues from Season 1 that we now understand better. Tommy wasn't always physically present, but he gave his kids something TL never gave him: safety, direction, and unconditional love, even if he didn't articulate it well. Even Angela, Tommy's ex-wife, still cares about him deeply. The way she speaks about him, defends him, and communicates with him tells us something important. Tommy didn't fail his family the way he believes he did. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't violent, absent, or neglectful. He did the best he could with the emotional tools he had, which were far fewer than most people. Another breadcrumb hidden between the lines is Tommy's drive to rise in the oil industry. It isn't just ambition, it's an escape, it's survival. It's the only path he knew to build a life different from the one he grew up in. Trauma survivors often become overachievers because doing something well becomes validation that they aren't broken. Tommy's success is proof of his resilience. Looking deeper, TL's guilt in the nursing home mirrors Tommy's fear of becoming him. It's a generational cycle being examined right in front of us. TL stares at sunsets, thinking of what he ruined. Tommy stares at the future, terrified of making the same mistakes. Cooper is the one who breaks the cycle, simply by saying the words Tommy needed his whole life. Tommy isn't just a better father than he thinks he is an entirely different kind of father. His kids trust him, respect him, and love him. They see his effort, not his shortcomings. Trauma doesn't disappear, but Tommy chose a different path. And that choice is the foundation of generational healing. A final layer of this emotional unpacking is what Tommy's storyline says about identity. Everything about him, the no-nonsense toughness, the emotional restraint, the fierce independence, comes from trying to outrun the ghosts of his childhood. Season 2 shows that Tommy has spent his whole life building armor. But armor doesn't mean he is cold. It means he was trying to protect the little boy inside him who grew up in chaos and fear. The show reveals Tommy's past not to weaken him, but to deepen him. Understanding his abusive upbringing gives weight to his successes and context to his relationships. It explains why he parented the way he did, why he distances himself emotionally, and why he cares so deeply even when he doesn't show it in traditional ways. Tommy Norris isn't defined by the trauma he lived through. He's defined by surviving it and choosing a different path for his children. That is where the beauty of his character lies. That is why his backstory hits so hard. And that is why Season 2's exploration of his past is not just sad. It's powerful, human, and healing.